morning, Year 9. I hope you're well and you're looking forward to reading our next instalment of The Secret Life of Bees. We're going to pick up where we left off yesterday at page 81. Please follow along as I read with the screen ruler. Each night, after the news, we all knelt down on the rug in the parlour, before Black Mary, and we said our prayers to her. Or rather, the three sisters and I knelt, and Rosaline sat on a chair. August, June, and May called the statue Our Lady of Chains, for no reason I could see. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is blessed with thee, blessed art thou among women. The sisters held strands of wooden beads and moved them in their fingers. In the beginning, Rosaline refused to join in, but soon she was going right along with the rest of us. I had the words memorized after the first evening. That's because we said the same thing over and over till it kept on repeating itself in my head, long after I stopped mouthing it. It was some kind of Catholic saying, but when I asked August if they were Catholic, she said, well, yes and no. My mother was a good Catholic. She went to Mass twice a week at St. Mary's in Richmond, but my father was an Orthodox eclectic. I had no idea what sort of denomination Orthodox eclectic was, but I nodded, like we had a big group of them back in Sylvan. She said, May and June and I take after our mother's Catholicism, mix in our own ingredients. I'm not sure what you call it, but it suits us. When we finished saying Hail Mary about 300 times, we said our personal prayers silently, which was kept to a minimum, since our knees would be killing us by then. I shouldn't complain, since it was nothing compared to kneeling on the Martha Whites. Finally, the sisters could cross themselves from their foreheads to their navels, and it would be over. One evening, after they crossed themselves and everyone had left the room but me and August, she said, Lily, if you ask for Mary's help, she'll give it. I didn't know what to say to that, so I shrugged. She motioned me next to her to sit down in the rocking chair. I want to tell you a story, she said. It's a story our mother used to tell us when we got tired of our chores or out of sorts with our lives. I'm not tired of chores, I said. I know, but it's a good story. Just listen. I situated myself in the chair and rocked back and forth, listening to the creaking sounds that rocking chairs are famous for. A long time ago, across the world in Germany, there was a young nun called Beatrix who loved Mary. She got sick and tired of being a nun, though, what with all the chores she had to do and the rules she had to go by. So one night, when it all got too much for her, she took off her nun outfit, folded it up, and laid it on her bed. Then she crawled out of the convent window and ran away. A convent is a name for a community of religious people, like nuns, and it can also be used in this case to describe a place. Okay, I could see where we were headed. She thought she was in for a wonderful time, August said. But life wasn't what she thought it would be for a runaway nun. She roamed around feeling lost, begging in the streets. After a while she wished she could return to the convent, but she knew they'd never take her back. We weren't talking about Beatrix the nun. That was plain as day. We were talking about me. What happened to her? I asked, trying to sound interested. Well, one day, after years of wandering and suffering, she disguised herself and went back to her old convent, wanting to visit one last time. She went into the chapel and asked one of her old sisters, Do you remember the nun Beatrix who ran away? What do you mean? The sister said. The nun Beatrix didn't run away. Why, there she is, over near the altar, sweeping. Well, you can imagine how this floored the real Beatrix. She marched over to the sweeping woman to get a look at her, and discovered it was none other than Mary. Mary smiled at Beatrix, then led her back to her room and gave her back her nun outfit. You see, Lily, all that time Mary had been standing in for her. The creaking in my rocker died away as I slowed to a stop. Just what was August trying to say? that Mary would stand in for me back home in Sylvan so T-Ray wouldn't notice I was gone. That was too outlandish even for the Catholics. Outlandish is an adjective which means something that is bizarre, odd, or unfamiliar, strange. I think she was telling me, I know you've run away. Everyone gets the urge to do that sometime. Sooner or later, you'll want to go home. Just ask Mary for help. I excused myself, glad to be out of the spotlight. After that, I started asking Mary for her special help. Not to take me home, though, like the poor nun Beatrix. No, I asked her to see to it that I never went back. I asked her to draw a curtain around the big house so no one would ever find us. I asked for this daily, and I sure couldn't get over that it seemed to be working. No one knocked on the door and dragged us off to jail. Mary had made us a curtain of protection. On our first Friday evening here, after prayers were finished and orange and pink swirls still hung in the sky from sunset, I went with August to the bee yard. I hadn't been out to the hives before, so to start off she gave me a lesson in what she called bee yard etiquette. Etiquette is a French word which refers to a set of rules, normally linked to a certain type of behaviour for a profession. So in this case, the type of rules for beekeeping. She reminded me that the world was really just one big bee yard, and the same rules worked fine in both places. Don't be afraid, as no life-loving bee wants to sting you. Still, don't be an idiot. Wear long sleeves and long pants. Don't swat. Don't even think about swatting. If you feel angry, whistle. Anger agitates, while whistling melts a bee's temper. Act like you know what you're doing, even if you don't. And above all, send the bees love. Every little thing wants to be loved. August had been stung so many times she had immunity. They barely hurt her. In fact, she said, stings helped her arthritis. But since I didn't have arthritis, I should cover up. She made me put on one of her long-sleeved white shirts and then placed one of the white helmets on my head and adjusted the netting. If this was a man's world, a veil took the rough beard right off it. Everything appeared softer, nicer. When I walked behind August in my bee veil, I felt like a moon floating on a night cloud. She kept 48 hives strewn through the woods around the pink house, and another 280 were parcelled out on various farms, in river yards and upland swamps. The farmers loved her bees thanks to all the pollinating they did, how they made the watermelons redder and the cucumbers bigger. They would have welcomed her bees for free, but August paid every one of them with 5 gallons of honey. She was constantly checking on her hives, driving her old flatbed truck from one end of the country to the other. The honey wagon was what she called it. Bee patrol was what she did in it. I watched her load the red wagon, the one I'd seen in the backyard with broad frames, those little slats that slip down in the hives for the bees to deposit honey on. We'll have to make sure the queen has plenty of room to lay her eggs, or else we'll get a swarm, she said. What does that mean, a swarm? Well, if you have a queen and a group of independent-minded bees that split off from the rest of the hive and look for another place to live, you've got a swarm. They usually cluster on a limb somewhere. It was clear she didn't like swarms. So she said, getting down to business, what we have to do is take out the frames filled with honey and put in empty ones. August pulled the wagon while I walked behind it, carrying the smoker stuffed with pine straw and tobacco leaves. Zack had placed a brick on top of each hive, telling August what to do. If the brick was at the front, it meant the colony had nearly filled the combs and needed another super. If the brick was at the back, there were problems like wax moths or ailing queens. Turned on its side, the brick announced a happy bee family. No Ozzy, just Harriet and her 10,000 daughters. August struck a match and lit the grass in the smoker. I watched her face flare with light and then recede into the dimness. She waved the bucket, sending smoke into the hive. The smoke, she said, worked better than a sedative. Still, when August removed the lids, the bees poured out in thick black ropes, breaking into strands, a flurry of tiny wings moving around their faces. The air rained bees, and I sent them love, just like August said. She pulled out a broad frame, a canvas of whirling blacks and greys with rubbings of silver. "There she is, Lily, see her?" said August. "That's the Queen, the large one." I made a curtsy like people do for the Queen of England, which made August laugh. I wanted her to love me, so she would keep me forever. If I could make her love me, maybe she would forget about Beatrice the nun going home and let me stay. When we walked back to the house, darkness had settled in, and fireflies sparkled around our shoulders. I could see Rosaline and May through the kitchen window finishing the dishes. August and I sat in collapsible lawn chairs beside a crepe myrtle that kept dropping blossoms all over the ground. Cello music swelled out from the house, rising higher and higher until it lifted off the earth, sailing towards Venus. I could see how much music drew the ghosts out of dying people, giving them a ride to the next life. I wish June's music could have seen my mother's out. I gazed at the stone wall that edged the backyard. "There are pieces of paper in the wall out there," I said, as if August didn't know this. "Yes, I know. It's May's wall. She made it herself." "May did?" I tried to picture her mixing cement, carrying rocks around in her apron. "She gets a lot of the stones from the river that runs through the woods back there. She's been working on it 10 years or more." "So that's where she got her big muscles, rock lifting. What are all the scraps of paper stuck in it?" "Oh, it's a long story," August said. "I guess you've noticed May is special." "She sure does get upset easily," I said. "That's because May takes in things differently than the rest of us do." August reached over and laid her hand on my arm. "See, Lily, when you and I hear about some misery out there, it might make us feel bad for a while, but it doesn't wreck our whole world. It's like we have built-in protection around our hearts that keeps the pain from overwhelming us. But May, she doesn't have that. Everything just comes into her, all the suffering out there, and she feels as if it's happening to her. She can't feel the difference." Did this mean if I told May about T-Ray's mounds of grits and his dozens of small cruelties, about killing my mother, that hearing it, she would feel everything I did? I wanted to know what happened when 2 people felt it. Would it divide the hurt in 2 and make it lighter to bear, the way feeling someone's joy seemed to double it? Rosaline's voice drifted from the kitchen window, followed by May's laughter. May sounded so normal and happy right then, I couldn't imagine how she'd gotten the way she was. 1 minute laughing and the next overrun with everybody's misery. The last thing I wanted was to be like that, but I didn't want to be like T-Ray either, immune to everything but his own selfish life. I didn't know which was worse. "Was she born like that?" I asked. "No, she was a happy child at first." "Then what happened to her?" August focused her eyes on the stone wall. "May had a twin, our sister April. The 2 of them were like one soul sharing 2 bodies. I never saw anything like it. If April got a toothache, May's gum would plump up red and swollen just like April's. Only one time did our father use a belt strap on April, and I swear to you, the welts rose on May's legs too." We're going to pause there this morning, Year 9, and you'll carry on the story tomorrow. I hope that you enjoyed reading the story today, and please, now we've finished, if you answer the questions underneath, you're trying for 5 out of 5. Have a lovely rest of your day.